call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back. It is Bones, and in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, today we will take a look at our next figure in the Infinite Crisis wave. Now, we already took a look at the Superman, the Kid Flash, and today we will look at Psycho Pirate. Now, although I have heard this name over time while collecting DC figures, I do know there is definitely some times that he has been made before in other toy lines, but I do not own any of these figures. So this will actually be my first ever Psycho Pirate. Now, another thing is I don't really know anything about this character. Over the years, what I have heard on the side or any information that I do have of him is that he's kind of like the lowest DC character that there is. Don't know anything about his powers. He doesn't necessarily use any signature weapons. And although when I did look up the older action figures of him, there's only one main difference between them. Looking up images of him online, he definitely is a character in the DC Comics lore, although be it one of the more obscure characters that there is. But as I said before, he has been referenced before. They have made figures of him before. So this isn't like a first time appearance or anything like that. And one more thing is, I don't really expect much from him because I do know that he's not that important of a character. But in the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, for some reason, they did make him the major part of that story. So that is rather interesting. Now, he does look pretty Weasley in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. Very interesting picture from the comics that they decided to use. Basically, Psycho Pirate getting his butt handed to him by Barry Allen's Flash. A lot of destruction going on behind them. And I would just wonder, out of all the images that I saw while looking up pictures of Psycho Pirate online, I do not know exactly why they went with this image. A very, very interesting choice of source material. In the back, you do have some information on Mr. Hayden. Pretty cool. We'll add that to the collection. Now, doesn't come with any sort of accessories. And I really think this reflects the fact that when they produced these figures, I don't think they knowingly thought they were going to be charging a higher price for these figures. These figures were originally supposed to be just your retail collectible set, and whatever happened, exactly nobody knows. Limited quantities, exclusivity, they ended up charging more for this figure. So no alternate hands, no scepters, nothing like that. The only thing I would say is originally this was not supposed to be a higher priced figure. While he does come with something which is the torso of the Monitor, of course we have received the legs and the arms, and this just gets us one step closer to building the Monitor. Actually, this has some pretty nice detail, a lot of that texture work that I actually prefer when you're looking at space characters or other dimensional characters. And from the design, you do get a little bit of that Kirby-esque feel to the markings and symbols on his costume. So we'll hold on to this and let's go ahead and take a closer look at the figure. Now, first impressions, I have seen this costume before, but very minimally, and While collecting DC over the years, I think he might have been like a little tiny figure. And then I'm pretty sure DC Direct ended up making a figure of him. So, interestingly enough, this is actually something fresh to my collection. I do not own anything of Psycho Pirate, so this is pretty nice. Definitely going to see some reuse here, a little bit of new stuff, which is pretty interesting. And he does strike a certain look. For some reason, I kind of have like a checkers or chess or like a playing card feel to him, or like a court jester, something like that. Just he gives off that vibe. And I do believe in the comics, he's like not necessarily the most powerful supervillain, but he looks pretty good for what he is. Has a rather interesting paint job. The most easily recognizable part, of course, being these thespian faceplates that he has marked on his body, the sad and the happy face. So, pretty interesting. Now, I won't go through all the articulation, of course, because we have definitely seen this before. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Now, not too much to talk about, but I actually really do like this sort of gold plate that he wears. Very reminiscent of Dr. Fate, but without the whole helmet. And the way you don't see any features really gives him a little bit of a creepy vibe, which is pretty cool. White eyes in there. So, yeah, head sculpt is pretty interesting. Not too bad. Let's take a look at the articulation. He does look down. He does look up very well, right to left. And you can tilt his head for some attitude. Love the collar that goes around the top as well. And it is looking like this is a unique sculpted out cape and collar. So at least we did get some sort of original skull, because the rest is pretty much reuse. Am feeling that the arms and the legs are from the Blue Beetle Buck. The trunks are a little bit different. And the upper chest is also different. And being that it is different, it kind of moves around a little bit differently than other bodies, which is actually kind of smooth. You got the full waist articulation. Could twist them and get them in some cool poses. Shoulders move nicely. Of course, you got the leg articulation as usual. Kicks up pretty high, kicks back. The trunks flex to allow for a lot of movement. He does have some very nice thigh swivel. Pretty cool, pretty cool articulation, but of course, this is standard for McFarlane. Now, looking at all of this, the only thing I would say is that right away I did not like the hands. The hands are something that I could tell some alternate hands are definitely something that is missing from this figure. Now, me, I went ahead and procured him some alternate hands. That was pretty easy. Originally, he has one fist and one gripping hand, but as he doesn't have anything that he usually holds, I don't think that was the best choice. Now, first off, the easiest and simplest thing is to give him another fist. And one thing that this does do, and I was pretty surprised, is you could just feel the difference, like in posing him and moving him around. When you have two fists, it gives him some kind of personality that he doesn't have, with those first hands. Then I gave him this sort of gesturing hand. I think this is from John Kent. I did touch up the paint so that it would match a little bit, but once again, just completely different feel to him once you add alternate hands. And then finally, for some fun, I did find these two extra gesturing hands. Now they are different tone, like skin tones, but what didn't matter is that once you put them on his wrist and him not showing any other skin, these actually worked really well and made him very fun to pose. I was really surprised at how fun he was to pose, especially once you gave him some alternate hands, which definitely was missing, regardless of if McFarlane didn't intend to sell these for a higher price. He should have at least had a couple of extra hands just to make the figure feel a little bit more complete. Now, as far as comparisons go, I did want to bring out my Heat Vision Superboy Prime just to give some idea of scale. Looks pretty good with this guy, actually. And the only other figure I could think that I wanted to compare him with was actually Flashpoint Flash, Barry Allen, especially saying how, especially considering the way they did him dirty by having him on his own card, getting laid to rest by the Flash. So, pretty interesting little figure. Not going to be anybody's favorite, but I am happy to add him to the collection. So, anyways, guys, we will move on to our next figure, which is going to be the Spectre. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.